Hey students, Captain Stubbs here, trying something new with the recordings. Again, like I had probably mentioned in class, that this is an option that if you maybe don't want to follow along with the in-class discussion, if you just want to plug in the headphones, get in your own little world, get the same information, take your notes, uh, that's an option, okay? Or if you are maybe missing a day, this is an easy, better way to quickly get caught up on all the information, and maybe I can give better explanations here than when you just like, oh, I've got to copy notes from someone. So hopefully this is going to work out for us. But we're going to go ahead and get started. We're talking about health components of fitness. Again, with health components of fitness, these are the things that you need to perform daily tasks or activities with ease and energy. Okay, this keeps you going. These are not going to be components that are performance based, like agility and power. Those are like kind of sport specific, to where they make you perform better. They do not make you healthier. Okay, these are the health related components that let you live an every day to day life. Do all the little things you need to do. Get up, go to school, go to work, get from class to class, take the trash out, do the dishes, clean up your room. Okay, anything it is, just your regular day-to-day activities, you can do those with ease and have energy doing them. Okay, excuse me. Now the different components. There's technically five that I kind of lump into four categories, but they're listed on the left side of the screen here. That cardiorespiratory fitness. Again, we talked about the other day with the benefits. That cardiorespiratory is how well your body uses oxygen, how well it moves it throughout. How well it moves oxygen throughout the body, and then how well your muscles utilize it. Okay. Now, next with endurance, okay, the ability to sustain and keep doing something over and over. Well, when we talk about aerobic endurance, that is very similar to cardiorespiratory endurance. Okay, you got cardiorespiratory. Again, we think of running and being able to run for a long time and over and over and over and just keep going. Well, aerobic endurance is basically that same thing. Okay, and I'll get into talking more about aerobic endurance here in just a second, but just keep in mind that endurance is this idea that you can keep repeating over and over and over and sustain that exercise. Okay, so that's aerobic. And then muscular endurance, okay, is again being able to use the muscles over and over without them fatiguing or tiring or giving out. The idea of running, okay, you're using your leg muscles, you're using them a lot, and if you're gonna run long distances, you have to have endurance so you can keep going. And it might be something as simple as if you're doing bicep curls. Okay, if you've got more endurance, you might be doing less weight, but you can curl and you can keep going and going and going and do lots of reps and sets. It's not just one and two and done. Okay, so endurance, you must keep going. Muscular strength, again, talking about the muscles, is yes, how much force can you produce? Okay, and when we're talking strength, we're talking that you're doing very few reps. Okay, so for muscular endurance of the arms, doing push-ups might be more of an endurance test. And the idea of, can you keep doing them over and over? How many can you do? How many can you do in a minute? Can you keep endurance to keep going? Muscular strength for upper body, you might look at like bench press. Okay, and you're loading up weight and you're putting on more and more weight to see how many times, or see if you can bench press that one time. Okay, so strength is the most force you can produce. Endurance is being able to repeat producing that force. Flexibility, you got that range of motion around a joint. Okay, muscles, ligaments, tendons can all get stiff and tight. We want flexibility. There's lots of benefits to flexibility that we're going to discuss as we get going. Now, from the other day, when talking about benefits, we saw some different types of exercises, okay? And I want to briefly try to sum these up, okay? Aerobic, maybe not a word you've heard much of before, but when you hear aerobic, what we're talking about is there's an exercise being done in the presence of oxygen. You're using oxygen, okay? Aerobic exercise would be like running, okay? And it's something that's being sustained over time, kind of a continuous pace, I guess. So running, long distance, long lasting, that's an aerobic exercise. You're breathing and you're using that air that you're breathing at that moment for that exercise. Okay? Anaerobic just means without oxygen. Okay? This is, excuse me, your really heavy lifting. Okay? If you're doing curls and you're trying to just rep out as many as you can over and over and over, or you're doing squats and you're just trying to do high reps, lots of reps over and over and over, that's aerobic. Anaerobic is when I'm going to put on a lot of weight and I'm just doing a couple. I might do 1, 2, 3 reps and that's it. Okay? At that point, we're not using the oxygen that we're breathing, and a lot of times you might even be holding your breath to produce more force. That's anaerobic. Okay? Even short burst, so it's short burst of movements, even sprinting. Okay? If you sprint for, 10 meters, 10 yards, okay, yes, you're going to be breathing, but the oxygen you're using at that moment for that exercise has already been stored in your muscles, or the energy that you're using is being stored in your muscles. Okay, so anaerobic is without oxygen, aerobic with oxygen. Aerobic long lasting, more paced, anaerobic short burst of energy. Okay. All right. So again, talking about cardiorespiratory endurance, again, is that ability of the heart, lungs, blood vessels to work, send fuel, send oxygen throughout all the tissues so they can work better, more effectively, so you can produce more activity. Okay. You measure and track this by checking your heart rate. Okay. Lots of different places you can check your heart rate. Most, will use 2 fingers and you place it inside of your neck, kind of where your carotid artery is there. When you feel the bumps of your heartbeat, okay, that's what you're looking for. Some people will do it on the wrist, okay. Sometimes when your heart beating is fast enough, you can simply put your hand on your chest and feel your heart beating. But typically on the neck is the best place and one of the easiest places to check that heart rate. Now, excuse me, having a lower resting heart rate, okay, is better. Okay, that's healthier. That means your heart doesn't have to work as hard all the time to pump oxygen and nutrients throughout your body. Okay, if your heart rate is higher all the time, that means your heart's working harder. Now, for a little bit, not a problem. Over a lifetime, that's when it becomes a problem. So exercising, again, makes your heart, lungs, blood vessels all more efficient. That way, they don't have to work as hard. Okay? Now, talking about that heart rate just a little bit, a normal heart rate is good. Pretty big range here. Is typically between 60 and 100 beats per minute. Now, so when you're checking that, lots of ways you can do it. You can count your beats and watch your clock for 30 seconds and take it times 2. Okay. You can watch for the full minute and count your beats, but typically not the best method. But I would say a lot of times counting your beats for 10 seconds, take whatever number you get times 6, or for 30 seconds, take it times 2. All right. And that's going to give you that range of where your heart rate is at. Okay. Again, the lower end towards that 60, the better. Okay. For a lot of people, even if you've got like a Fitbit tracker or something that's going to track your heart rate, you'll notice even when you sleep, your heart rate may drift even lower than that. Okay. Because everything's really slowing down. And that's okay as long as it's not stopping. Max heart rate. This is just as it sounds, the maximum number of times your heart can beat in 1 minute. Okay. Easiest way to find this number, okay, a real close estimated number of what anyone's max heart rate is taking the number 220 minus your age. Okay, so hypothetically speaking, if I was 20 years old, I would take 220 minus 20. My max heart rate would be 200. Okay, if you are 15 years old, take 220 minus 15, your max heart rate is 205. Simple math, okay? So there are other ways to find max heart rates where you do a bunch of crazy equations, got to hook yourself up to some machines, but really it comes down to a very close number that 220 minus your age is going to give you your max heart rate. So based off that max heart rate, when we do exercises, you often hear of, hey, work in your target heart rate zone of this percent. All right, so more math here, but you take the number of beats per minute needed to reach that desired level of exertion. Okay, example being here, 220 minus 40. If I'm 40 years old, my max heart rate is 180. Well, if I want to work at 70% of that, I'm taking 180 times 0.70. All right, 0.70. Make sure you get that decimal in there. That's going to give you 126. So if I'm working at, if my heart rate, is at 126, I'm at 70% of my max heart rate. So as we talked about, moderate intensity is usually somewhere between 50 and 70%. So I'd encourage you to figure out your max heart rate and then find what is these percentages for moderate and vigorous activity. Okay, what are the ranges? So you take your age minus 220 minus your age times 0.5 will give you the low end of that moderate, and then do it again times 0.7 to give you the upper end, and that range is anything in there, you're at moderate level of intensity. Vigorous, do the same thing, 0.7, but now just do 220 minus your age times 0.85, and then you have your upper level of vigorous activity. So we talked about moderate and vigorous a little bit, but this, finding your heart rate doing this way, actually gives you and lets you know when you look at your Fitbit or whatever, if something's tracking it, or if you just want to measure it by touching your neck, you then can know, oh, I am moderately working out, or I'm vigorously working out. All right. Aerobic endurance, and then muscular endurance. Here I need to move this around so maybe some people can see. All right, I'm going to put it right there. Aerobic endurance, again, the ability to engage in cardiorespiratory activity over a period of time. So repeating, doing it again and again. Depends on the ability of the heart to pump blood, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, breaks down carbohydrates fast for energy. Okay, we talked about some carbohydrates, the best source of energy that the body wants to use. This does it very well. Okay, and better conditioned at lower heart rates to allow more efficient use of carbohydrates. Okay, so the better heart is, more effective doing this, the better it uses carbs, better you burn calories. Muscular endurance. Okay, muscular endurance is again, time repeating for how long you can go for, in which a group of muscles can continue to exert force. So running long distances, again, using those leg muscles over and over and over. If you want to do upper body, you look at how many push-ups. Okay, can you just keep going? You're not producing max effort force. You're just producing lower level. Okay, and you're doing it again and again and again. All right, move this back out of the way. Muscular strength. This is where we are producing max force, okay, or as much force as we can. You're lots of different ways you can do this. You can be lifting, pushing, pulling different muscles, but you improve this, okay, you improve your strength by repeating this exercise over and over and over. Okay, so it's not endurance, Okay,